Ladies and gentlemen, they'll call you selfish until they need your success. What if I told you that your focus will cost you friendships? That your obsession with your dreams will be mistaken for arrogance? Your boundaries will be called betrayal. Your silence will be labeled pride. Welcome to the truth behind success, the part no one claps for, no one understands, and no one warns you about. See, the minute you start getting serious about your life, people start getting uncomfortable. Not because you've changed, but because they haven't. The moment you begin choosing growth over gossip, solitude over shallow company, progress over popularity, they'll whisper behind your back, and the word they'll use to define your discipline: selfish. But they don't know the nights you cried alone. They don't know the pain of staying focused while life keeps testing you. They don't know what it's like to chase something so big it scares even you. They just see your distance, not the destiny you're building. You see, people want you to stay the same. It's more comfortable for them that way. They want you available, not ambitious. They want you present, not purposeful. And when you stop showing up for their drama, their distractions, their demands, they won't say you're disciplined. They'll say you're selfish. But let me tell you something, focus is never selfish. Focus is survival. Focus is clarity. Focus is how you stop living for others and finally live for something greater than their opinions. The truth is, most people are addicted to attention, but you're addicted to elevation. You're addicted to building a version of yourself that can't be broken by noise or guilt or shame, and that scares people. Because every time you say no to something meaningless, you're saying yes to something legendary. They won't understand. They're not supposed to, because they weren't given your vision. They weren't given your pain, your passion, your path. That was given to you, and you alone. So if they call you selfish for protecting your energy, if they label you cold for guarding your time, if they whisper your name with judgment in their mouths, smile, you're on the right path. Because the focused are always mocked before they're followed. The disciplined are always doubted before they're respected. And the selfish are always hated until their success becomes the blueprint. So stay locked in, be obsessed, be unavailable, be misunderstood. Just don't be average, trying to please everyone. Your life isn't meant to be explained, it's meant to be built. There's something uncomfortable that happens the moment you decide to get serious about your life. When you stop playing small, stop wasting time, stop chasing approval, and start chasing growth. It's like flipping a switch. Suddenly the people around you begin to act different. Some get quiet, some get distant, and some start whispering behind your back. But let me tell you something powerful. It's not your focus they fear, it's what your focus reveals. Because when you become focused, you start holding up a mirror to people who aren't. When you chase purpose with tunnel vision, you remind others that they've been running in circles. Your discipline becomes a threat. Your vision becomes a trigger. Why? Because most people are not afraid of your failure. They're terrified of your success. They don't want to admit it out loud, but every step you take forward exposes the steps they haven't taken yet. The truth is, your focus challenges their comfort, and people will do anything to protect their comfort zone, even if it means attacking your commitment. They'll call you selfish not because you hurt them, but because you stopped including them in the excuses. You stopped explaining yourself. You stopped showing up for nonsense. You stopped wasting time trying to fit into the old life you've already outgrown. Let's be real for a second. You weren't always like this. You used to people please. You used to overextend, overcommit, and overexplain. You tried to be everything for everyone and ended up being nothing for yourself. But now you've changed. You've tasted vision. You've discovered purpose. You've seen the version of yourself that's waiting on the other side of focus, and you're not going back. Not for their comfort, not for their applause, not even for their approval. You finally realize that you're not here to be liked. You're here to be legendary. And that's the moment the world starts whispering. They say you've changed. Yes, that's the point. They say you don't care anymore. No, I just don't care about the same things. They say you're selfish now. No, I'm just finally prioritizing the one person I've ignored for too long, me. You see, when you were available all the time, they called you loyal. When you sacrificed your peace to stay connected, they called you kind. When you exhausted yourself trying to keep everyone happy, they called you real. But the moment you start pouring into yourself, the moment you set boundaries, the moment you stop entertaining what drains you, suddenly you're selfish. Let me tell you something real. People will weaponize your growth if it threatens their comfort. They'll mock your schedule. They'll laugh at your goals. They'll say you're trying to be better than them. But that's not the truth, is it? You're not trying to be better than them. You're trying to be better than the version of yourself that settled for less. You're trying to be better than the tired, broken, distracted person who smiled on the outside but was drowning on the inside. You're not selfish. You're finally aware of what matters. You understand now that time is limited, that energy is currency, that attention is power. And when you choose to focus those things on becoming the best version of yourself, you will automatically disrupt the people who still live on autopilot. Focus is a light, and light exposes everything in the dark. So don't be surprised when your focus reveals who was really for you and who was only around for the old version of you. Don't be surprised when they distance themselves, when they criticize you, when they try to pull you back into the place you fought so hard to leave. You're not selfish. You're evolving, and evolution is loud to those who refuse to grow. So here's the truth. They will talk. They will judge. They will say you've changed. Let them, because focus will cost you comfort, but it will give you clarity. It will cost you approval, but it will give you alignment. It will cost you the crowd, but it will give you your calling. And in the end, the same people who mocked your grind will wish they had your mindset. The same people who called you selfish will be the ones asking for your help. But by then, you won't need validation, because your results will speak louder than their opinions ever could. So stay focused. Let them talk. You're not selfish. You're unstoppable. One of the most powerful realizations you will ever have on your journey to greatness is this: you don't owe anyone an explanation for choosing yourself. Not your family, not your friends, not your past, and definitely not the crowd that only knows how to cheer when you play small. You see, when you begin to grow, evolve, and elevate, people will get uncomfortable, but not because you've wronged them, not because you've betrayed anyone. No, they get uncomfortable because your growth makes their excuses feel exposed. Your consistency reveals their chaos. Your silence calls out their noise. And your commitment to your own path feels like rejection to people who thought they were the center of yours. But let me say this loud: you do not need to shrink to make others feel safe. You do not need to pause your growth so someone else doesn't feel left behind. You do not need to justify your grind, explain your boundaries, or apologize for wanting more. Because the truth is, most people only loved you when you were convenient, when you were accessible, when you were stuck like them. The moment you start climbing out of mediocrity, they start questioning your loyalty. The moment you stop showing up for every call, every drama, every unproductive event, they say you've changed. And they're right. You have. Because growth will demand isolation. It will pull you away from crowds who only clap for average. It will distance you from people who celebrate comfort but fear calling. It will put you in rooms that feel lonely but are filled with purpose. And yes, it hurts sometimes. It hurts when people don't understand why you don't hang out anymore, why you don't reply instantly, why you're always busy, always building, always in your zone. But they don't see the war you're fighting behind closed doors. They don't see the battle you face between who you were and who you're trying to become. They don't see the weight of legacy pressing on your shoulders. They don't see how tired you are, but you keep going anyway. They don't see the pressure, the pain, the late nights, the sacrifices. So no, you don't owe them an explanation. You owe yourself a future. You owe yourself freedom. You owe yourself fulfillment. And that means doing what most won't, protecting your peace at all costs. If that means not answering texts, so be it. If that means saying no more often, so be it. If that means choosing solitude over socializing, so be it. If that means being misunderstood for a while, so be it. You weren't born to be understood. You were born to be exceptional. And exceptional people are often labeled selfish in the early chapters of their success story because they stop explaining and start executing. The truth is, explanations are just another trap. Because the moment you start explaining your choices to people who don't understand your vision, you open the door for doubt. They'll question your priorities. They'll try to plant hesitation in your certainty. They'll give you advice that comes from their limits, not your potential. And if you listen long enough, you'll start shrinking again. You'll dim your light. You'll slow your pace. You'll compromise on dreams that once made your heart beat faster. So protect your growth. Not everyone deserves access to your becoming. Your journey is sacred. Your focus is rare. Your mission is yours. If they can't see that, it's not your job to paint it for them. You're building a life they may never understand, and that's okay. You don't need to convince them. You don't need to prove them wrong. You just need to stay alone, stay focused, and move in silence until your results become too loud to be ignored. Let them think what they want. Let them say what they will, because the ones who truly matter will celebrate you, not just when you're present but even when you're focused, not just when you're available, but even when you're aligned. And those who walk away when you elevate, they were never with you in the first place. So here's your permission slip. Stop explaining. Start building. You're not rude. You're real. You're not selfish. You're self-aware. You're not distant. You're determined. Because the dream you're chasing doesn't need defending. It needs execution. They're quotes at a truth they never tell you at the beginning of your journey. A quiet hidden cost that comes long before the success, before the breakthrough, before the applause. That cost is being misunderstood. When you decide to walk in purpose, you're stepping onto a path most people don't recognize, and because they don't understand it, they'll judge it. They'll mislabel your intentions. They'll twist your silence into arrogance. They'll call your sacrifice selfishness and your drive obsession. But hear me now. That's not your burden to carry. You see, purpose doesn't come with a cheering crowd. It comes with sound. It comes with long, lonely nights when no one checks in. It comes with distance, physical, emotional, spiritual, from the people you once loved. Not because you don't love them anymore, but because you're moving differently now. You're being pulled by something greater. You're not living for attention. You're living for alignment. And that shift, it unsettles people. You'll begin to notice it. When you stop responding to every group chat. When you stop showing up to every event just to be polite. When your time starts going to books, work, learning, building, growing, instead of drama and distraction. People start whispering. They say he's distant now. She's changed. He's all about himself. She thinks she's better than us. And none of it is true. You just finally know what you want. And when someone with vision walks among people without it, it always creates tension. Let me remind you of something powerful. Purpose is a private contract between you and your creator. It's not up for public approval. It's not a group project. And most importantly, it's not supposed to make sense to anyone but you. You weren't put on this earth to be understood. You were put here to be used, to build, to lead, to carry something rare inside of you. And that calling will set you apart. People will misunderstand your silence as disconnection. They'll misunderstand your discipline as coldness. They'll misunderstand your work ethic as ego. But that's okay, because you didn't come to be accepted. You came to be effective. You came to do something with your life that leaves a mark. And marks are made through pressure, through distance, through lonely, misunderstood seasons that no one claps for. Ask any champion. Ask any innovator. Ask any visionary. The first thing they lost wasn't money. It wasn't energy. It was being understood. But they kept going. Why? Because they knew the ones who misunderstood them in chapter 3 would be quoting them by chapter 10. So let them talk. Let them misread you. Let them gossip about the version of you they no longer understand. Let them stay confused while you stay committed. You don't need to clear your name. You don't need to prove your worth. Because if they truly knew your heart, your purpose, your pain, they wouldn't judge your distance. They'd respect your discipline. You're not selfish. You're serious. You're not disconnected. You're devoted. You're not cold. You're called. The price of purpose is losing the need to explain yourself to people who aren't growing. It's letting go of the version of yourself that needed to be liked, loved, and constantly affirmed. It's realizing that you don't need to be understood today, because your future results will explain everything tomorrow. And when they see you win, when they see the book written, the business built, the body transformed, the life redesigned, they'll say, I always knew you had it in you. But you'll remember the nights they didn't see your vision, the days they doubted your change, the whispers behind your back, the laughs, the silence, the rejection. And in that moment you'll smile, not because you need revenge, but because you finally understand what purpose truly costs. Not popularity, not applause, but being misunderstood long enough to be undeniable. So if you feel alone right now, if you feel judged, if you feel like no one gets what you're building, or why you've changed, good. It means you're on the right path, because those called to greatness are always misunderstood, until they become the example. Keep building, keep going, keep walking through the silence, because purpose isn't meant to make sense to the crowd. It's meant to move mountains. They'll call you selfish when you finally choose you, when you start protecting your energy, valuing your time, and saying no to what once drained you. The world doesn't know what to do with you anymore, because for so long, They've seen you as the giver, the listener, the helper, the one who always said yes, even when your soul whispered no. But now you've changed, not because you're arrogant, not because you don't care, but because you finally realize the truths. You can't heal others while staying broken yourself. You can't pour from an empty cup, and you can't carry everyone while neglecting your own journey. Let them say what they want. Let them call you selfish, because what they don't understand is this isn't selfishness. This is self-awareness. You've finally awakened to who you are and what you need. You've stopped chasing validation and started chasing alignment. You're no longer driven by guilt, pressure, or fear of being left behind. You've begun choosing peace over popularity, progress over people-pleasing, and purpose over performance. And that scares them, because when someone becomes self-aware, they become powerful. They start seeing through manipulation. They stop tolerating cycles of disrespect. They stop living on autopilot and start moving with intention. They become dangerous to systems that benefit from their exhaustion. And so, see, here's what they won't tell you. When you say yes to everyone, they call you generous. When you say yes to yourself, they call you selfish. When you show up for everyone else, they call you loyal. When you finally show up for your own life, they call you cold. But the truth is, you're not selfish. You're finally awake. You've realized that sacrificing yourself for everyone else's comfort doesn't make you a hero. It makes you a prisoner. You've realized that your worth was never tied to your availability. You've realized that being drained, anxious, overcommitted, and overstretched isn't noble. It's toxic. And the moment you made peace with walking away from that version of you, everything changed. You start saying no, not because you're mean, but because your boundaries matter. You started walking alone, not because you hate people, but because not everyone is meant to go where you're headed. You started talking less and building more, not because you're antisocial, but because energy is expensive and peace is priceless. That's what self-awareness does. It doesn't just show you who you are, it reveals who you're not. It gives you the courage to say, I'm not available for this anymore, even when it upsets people. It allows you to set standards, protect your purpose, and walk away from anything that costs your soul too much. And yes, it comes with consequences. Some people will leave, some will talk, some will say you've changed. Let them, because self-awareness always invites separation, and separation always comes before elevation. You'll lose some comfort, you'll lose some friends, you'll lose some approval, but you'll gain clarity, you'll gain power, you'll gain yourself back. You are not selfish for choosing growth. You are not selfish for outgrowing environments that felt like home. You are not selfish for choosing yourself in a world that profits from your self-abandonment. You are self-aware, you are present, you are healing, you are rising, and anyone who can't see that was never really for you. So don't shrink back into their comfort just to feel accepted. Don't dim your light to make others feel secure. And don't apologize for a version of you that finally knows what it wants. Because here's the truth. People will call you selfish when they can no longer control you. They'll label your boundaries as betrayal. They'll say you've forgotten where you came from, but you haven't forgotten. You've just finally remembered who you are. You're not here to stay stuck. You're not here to be consumed. You're not here to be everything for everyone and nothing for you. You're here to build, to grow, to thrive, to inspire. So let them talk. Let them misunderstand. Let them call you selfish. Because one day, they'll see that the most powerful thing you ever did was choose you. So when they say you've changed, look them in the eyes and say, yes, I finally did. You changed from someone who tolerated everything just to keep the peace to someone who became the peace. You changed from someone who apologized for dreaming too big to someone who refused to shrink just to fit their small-minded comfort zones. Let them call you selfish. Let them call you arrogant. Let them say whatever they need to say to make themselves feel better. Because their comfort is not your responsibility. Your calling is. This world does not reward those who wait for approval. It rewards those who move in silence, build in the shadows, and rise with scars, not excuses. Your life is not a democracy. It doesn't need a vote. It doesn't need permission. It just needs you. Focused, faithful, and fearless. So be selfish enough to protect your vision. Be selfish enough to say no to noise. Be selfish enough to outgrow the version of you that settled, that waited, that hoped someone else would save you. Because the truth is, no one's coming. It's you.
It's always been you. And the moment you stop apologizing for choosing yourself, you'll start becoming the person you were born to be. Because focus isn't selfish, it's sacred. And your future will thank you for the sacrifices no one else saw. So stay focused, let them talk, and build anyway.